To poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rest. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to the broadcast of Time for Hemp all around the world on Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and of course, iHeartRadio. We are the only 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, all cannabis, all the time broadcasting network on iHeartRadio. And like a good joint, we are best when shared with friends. I want to say thank you to KDK Distributors. They've been kind enough to give us a grant to keep us loud, proud, and strong, and send our love to that fantastic group of people. Remind you to check out all the banners on our website, timeforhemp.com. And, of course, all of our MP3s are free to download. It's Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we put a spotlight whenever we can on LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP.cc. And I would encourage you to check that website to find a speaker to bring to your neck of the woods to help educate people about the importance to end prohibition. My joint host on Wednesdays is normally Judge Lenny Frieling, and that is the case today. And don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint on the big broadcast, nearly 2.5 million people all around the world pack their bongs, their pipes, their vaporizers, and twist up a joint to take time for hemp. Good morning, Your Honor. How be you today?
Casper, boss, I'm just doing great. As you know from our off-the-air chat, we're in the middle of what we believe to be a major breakthrough in looking at impairment rather than looking at chemistry, and that's been occupying my days and nights in addition to my criminal defense practice, so pretty busy.
Well, fantastic, and we've got a fantastic joint guest on the Big Joint broadcast. He is a member of our joint family. He's been on before, but it's been a long time since we've had him on as a joint guest, and I'll let you introduce him to our joint audience, Your Honor.
It is my pleasure to welcome Bill Vandergriff to our show today, and Bill's a real treat. I'm just thrilled to have him on here. Bill, I'm going to start off with a softball. What is LEAP? Why are we talking about LEAP?
Well, we're talking about LEAP because we have the right idea about how to control crime and violence in our cities. Particularly, we speak to the legalization, control, and regulation of drugs in our society to take it out of the hands of the cartels, and I think that's the way we should be going. And LEAP is an international organization of judges like yourself and police officers and crown attorneys and prosecutors, politicians who are all speaking up against this continuing and unendless war on drugs that is doing nothing to help our society except to create harm to individuals and fill up our jails for no good reason, in my opinion.
Bill, we are at a point now, we're at a time now where in many places of the world, including the free state of Colorado, more and more people are learning, understanding that there are medical benefits to pot. In Colorado, in Portugal, in, I believe, Uruguay, and other places, we're also saying it's okay to do it for pleasure also. And as I am fond of saying, where do you draw the line? If something makes me happier, is that a recreational drug or is that an antidepressant that is effective? You can't really draw the line, can we?
No, you can't. No, you can't. And as much as I support medical marijuana, this is why I more support the legalization and control and access to it. We're having a heck of a time up here in Winnipeg, Canada right now with medical marijuana, in the sense of I have personally become involved in what we call a vape room up here in Canada, where medical marijuana users are allowed to bring their product and enjoy the company of other medical marijuana users. And it's been quite successful here in Winnipeg. Subsequent to my involvement in that, because I have to draw my own lines with my police background, is that a dispensary has suddenly opened in Winnipeg, and shit has hit the fan here in our town, so to speak. We have doctors fighting us. The police have ordered them to shut down. And there was a demonstration here yesterday out front, which I attended to lend my support to them. I'm not involved with them in any way, but I certainly support their efforts. And, to tell your listeners, Casper, for example, the other day I was in that shop, and there was a man coming that was sitting there in a wheelchair with full-blown MS, multiple sclerosis. And he explained to me how medical marijuana is the only substance that really relieves his symptoms and makes him feel better generally. And in comparison to the medications he's on, we had quite a nice chat. And this is not unusual. I've seen many of such people, and many with invisible disabilities and injuries and things of that nature. But what was so outstanding was an official handicap bus came from one of the nursing homes to pick him up. And that was unusual because, what the nursing homes are generally like. These are government-run things up in Canada for the most part. So I found that fascinating to see that, and that sure struck home to me how much we need these kinds of places and for the ability to do, as you say, Judge Frieling, to simply enjoy themselves when they can.
Oh, you can't enjoy yourself. The government can't tolerate that. So forget about the enjoy yourself part. And in fact, if we could make marijuana that made you nauseous, the government would probably like it better.
Right. Well, and that's what the big fight's about. It's all ideologic fighting in this town as well. And, it's really time, I think. As much as I enjoy the medical marijuana because I use it myself, I'm a legal user myself. I've gone through all the hoops with my own personal physician and whatnot to make sure I am legal, because people don't want to be legal. People want to live their lives and enjoy themselves and not have to worry about some policeman or some official coming up and causing you problems that really aren't necessary. I mean, is it not my right to eat, drink, and smoke whatever I want if I'm not committing a crime against another human being? I think that's true in my case and so many other people's cases in this world, and I think it's time that we take control of this substance out of the hands of the cartels, the bikers, whoever else is bringing all drugs into our country, because they can't stop it. They never will. They'll never be able to stop it, and it's time that we came up with a new plan to regulate and control these situations.
Have you arrested drug dealers in your law enforcement? You have had a 29-year law enforcement background?
Well, my background, no, I've never arrested drug dealers. I wasn't interested in the drug world. My career ended up in the early 80s into a detective division, and I pretty much stayed there my whole career till I retired in 2001. I retired as a staff sergeant in charge of homicide, major crime, and a street gang unit. So from a supervisory level, yes, because we did a project on a street gang here, and we seized and made buys on cocaine. I just sat in my office, of course, and listened to all this nonsense. I didn't like it from the start because it was targeting an Aboriginal gang in Winnipeg, very much the way U.S. authorities, tag and target the black gangs. But the law is the law, and we had to simply go ahead. So we arrested 40 40 individuals. This was in about 2000. And, really it didn't do any good. Within a month, the drugs were all back out on the street again, and, there were new players in the game. So really, what did it accomplish? Nothing.
Let me ask you the same question a different way, because I can't say it amuses me. Can something be sick, twisted, and still amusing? I suppose Lenny Bruce might argue, were he still alive, that it is. But here's the question. Your people under you arrested 40 drug dealers, give or take, in the year 2000. To me, that means there are now 40 job vacancies.
Absolutely.
40 job slots. How many of those got filled?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. The gang, the gang thrives today, the same gang.
So how much have we accomplished with those 40 arrests? Fair to say nothing?
Well, absolutely nothing, except that what we have done is we've turned, a bunch of friends and associates and family members, because we did hurt their families, there's no question about it. I mean, hey, crime's crime, but I've always believed crime has to... the problem I have with drug work is there's no corroboration 9 times out of 10. You don't have a victim, you don't have a complainant to back you up when you go into court about, what's happened and why you did this and that. And with drugs, it's simply a matter the police are on their own. They say and do what they want, essentially. And, that's what I find leads to accusations of corruption in the police departments, whether in some cases it'll be true, but in other cases it's unfounded. But it's the whole perception of the drug world and the drug work that leads to this perception that every cop is corrupt.
I'm thinking that when someone in uniform knocks at my front door, there are 2 directions my reaction can take over time, over history. Old days, first reaction, oh, damn, did I leave a roach in the ashtray? New reaction, officer, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Black and white, night and day.
Yeah.
We're on the same side or we're not. And I like to not lose track of shades of gray, but do we want to be on the same side or not? It's that straightforward. Yes,
and it is. And when in Canada, police officers are sworn in as peace officers. That's your first duty, is to be a peace officer. And the drug world, drug enforcement, contradicts that. It always has.
Oh, no, we have no problem with that. We have armored cars. We have machine guns. We have flashbangs. We have all that cool stuff.
Well, I know, and you're sending it all up north here to us. We're getting the same kind of stuff. So.
And you need it as much as we do, probably.
We don't need it. I mean, as a detective, we used to go around and pick up murder suspects or armed robbers or whatever. We send a team. Go pick up that guy, pull him in. You know what I mean? It's all changed. Everything is turned into a major operation now, and the drug world, in particular drug enforcement, really has hampered police investigations over the years. I mean, we go into a community with our drug enforcement officers and we raid houses, and then a week or 2 weeks later we have a homicide, a murder in the same area, and we expect cooperation from these people? No way. We're not going to get it. We're told to screw off. He busted my son for minor pot possession the other day. Why should I talk to you? That's the kind of thing that the police have to put up with because of these laws that they're told to enforce.
What about the 8-year-olds, the 10-year-olds that are watching as mom, dad, or Uncle Sadie is carted off in handcuffs by uniforms? What does that tell them? What impression does that leave them?
Well, I think what it leaves an impression on the young children is the police aren't your friends. The police are not coming there to be your friends, and they're hauling your mom and dad away for what? Well, gee, they've been using that for a long time. Now why? Why? You know what I mean? It's got to have a huge impact on families. It hurts families, and certainly placing. I mean, most of our young people. I think the average pot user, for example, is what, about a 25 or 30-year-old working male. Comes home after work, instead of having a drink, sits down and has a puff. I never seen anything wrong with that as a police officer either.
You ever have somebody who had been smoking pot, no other drugs involved, that took a swing at you?
Never.
You ever had a drunk take a swing at you?
Every day.
Oh, man.
And that was my partner. That was my partner sometimes.
Oh, man. I mean, I can laugh at it, but as you know, it is a twisted, sick kind of laughter. Let me ask this. In Winnipeg, in your part of Canada, and by the way, Americans in general know nothing about Canada except it's this big thing up above us somewhere that's cold at the top and skis at the bottom. And here's the question. And I'm going to set it up backwards. We, for the second time in the state of Colorado, had the appropriate state board turn down PTSD as one of our magic listed conditions that allows one to get a medical card. How do you deal up there with different medical impacts, different diseases?
Well, I mean, the new system we have here as of earlier in the year, it's really just up to the doctor now. There's a whole range of diseases they list, but really the doctor has the option here to do it. Whether or not they do it is the question.
So it's up to my doc. It's up to my doc if my PTSD is positively impacted or if it's not the right med for me. Right. Well,
and I don't understand doctors. We go in and they prescribe you pills half the time, and they say, come back in 2 weeks, and they ask you, well, how did that work? Well, it didn't work. I don't feel any better. There's something wrong and this and that. So they do a switch. In other words, the doctor listens to you about what your opinion is. But when you raise medical marijuana as being something that is much more efficient with much more efficacy in the treatment of what's ailing you, they don't listen.
I am first, I am thrilled that you are letting doctors make medical decisions. It seems straightforward enough, and as we progress, more doctors will be glad they have that in their medical arsenal. I can't imagine a lot of docs are thrilled by prescribing medications where side effects include things like sterility, death, you become a jerk, whatever the side effects are, rather than a 10,000-year-old medication which doesn't have those side effects. And to leave it up to the MD just makes sense. And right now we're in that transition period as they become more comfortable, as they see more positive results.
I understand, and I've got to say that there are some side effects in my world of not paying our bills. And that comes to having your lights shut off and your cable shut off and people asking you to move out of your dwelling if you don't pay your rent. So to avoid those side effects in my world, we are going to stop and pay our bills, and then we're going to listen to a song about how fantastic marijuana is, and then we're going to come back and pick up where we left off here at Time for Hemp. Listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic, Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most awarded strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
That first bag of green to the man, okay. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Feeling the breeze, looking at trees, watching for a pie in the sky. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Sat in the slow lane, watching it all go by. Well, since the hairy mister kissed my little sister, didn't get to school on time. Took it to the teacher, says it couldn't reach her, plays the music in her mind. Don't get to no classroom till 9:30. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Heard the tunes, sniffing the blues, beginning to wonder why she was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Sat in the slow lane, watching it all go by. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. She wasn't feeling the breeze. She wasn't looking at trees and watching for a pie in the sky. She was cannabis high. Well, she was cannabis high. Sat in the slow lane, watching the world go by. Well, Mr. Hoity-Toity drove his little doity on around the Byron Bay. Came across an Indian, thought it was a Simbian. Hoity-Toity ran away. Well, she got back home round noon on the following day, and she was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Living a dream out, rolling the green and gazing at the blue, blue sky. She was cannabis high. She was cannabis high. Sat in the slow
Thank you for taking Time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Time for Hemp on Tumblr, SoundCloud, and, of course, iHeartRadio. You can find a Google app in the Google Plus store to download into your smart devices and take us on the go. Also, other apps. We have the iHeart app you can find, and the Tumblr app, the SoundCloud app. So if you want to listen to Time for Hemp while you're heading to work or on the bus going off to run your errands, all you got to do is check out an app, and it can happen. On the program today, it is Wednesday, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition Day. Our love to all the amazing people on that team. I'm going to hush my mouth and let our joint guests get back with our joint host into their joint chat while I enjoy my joint here in the joint on Time for Hemp. Your Honor?
Well, as always, we're smoking. We talked earlier. You should all be laughing. That's hysterical. I know. I came up with it myself. Okay.
Thank you.
We talked about what boils down to the golden rule. And I am reminded of one of my favorite quotations, and I'm not a fan of religious quotations overall, but this one's good. One of the most famous rabbis, Rabbi Hillel, was asked to define Judaism while standing on one foot. Stood on one foot and said, "What is evil unto you?" They talk that way with the untos. "What is evil unto you, do not do unto others. The rest is all commentary. Now go and study."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that got a huge laugh. Okay, I'll skip on down. Let me ask you something, Bill. As you know, marijuana these days is on the list of easier sells. More and more people are either understanding that it is benign, it won't hurt people, and it's becoming more accepted. It's becoming more accepted medically. As we get older, we're seeing, sadly, people going through chemotherapy who are saying this helps. Scientifically, does that really matter? If I had to go in for chemo and I felt better if I smoked first, does it matter whether that's scientifically accurate, or is that just an interesting factoid? To me, that's interesting. But if somebody feels better and is doing no harm to themselves or others, what can be more important than that? The science? Yes, let's study. Yes, let's learn. Yes, let's learn from the Israelis who try to make it more possible, not less possible, to conduct studies. Let's jump into the more challenging part of the LEAP agenda. We're moving ahead on pot. We're getting there. We're getting there at an accelerating rate. You and I, Bill, know that the LEAP platform goes beyond legalizing marijuana. And while normal, for example, primary focus is marijuana. Wonderful, fine, I'm a huge supporter. Let's talk about how LEAP goes further. Would you tell me why, tell our listeners why this kind of legalize and regulate, tax, legalize, and regulate, how does that apply to heroin, to methamphetamine, to things that you and I would say, regardless of the politics, that's probably a dangerous drug? How does that fit in?
Well, sure, they're dangerous, and I don't speak up for those kinds of substances, but I will speak up for the fact that it is the prohibition of those substances that is causing so many of the problems in our society today. The street gang violence, the cartel violence around the world, and the overdose deaths that we see occurring. As a homicide officer, I handled many of those kinds of overdose, whether it's from heroin or pharmaceuticals or whatever it may be. And it seemed to me that prohibition contributed more to that demise of that individual through the unregulated and uncontrolled administration of these substances by drug dealers and criminals. Essentially, we got to take these things off the streets. When we legalize marijuana, the reason marijuana is often considered a gateway drug, which it isn't, of course, is because drug dealers handle all kinds of substances. And when we're exposing our children to marijuana on the streets, they're also being exposed to all these other substances, unfortunately. And that's why I'm big on getting the marijuana off the street right away. We can look, see how we go with that one and look at these other substances in due course. But I can simply say this. I'm tired of watching the young people being shot to death on our streets. I'm tired of seeing the overdoses all over our cities. Because I know people do recover from their addictions if they're given half a chance. And I've seen them. And I've worked with many addicts in the course of homicide investigations. And, you know, we try and dehumanize these people so much that they fear us. They fear to come up and seek help when they want it. And they will seek help when they want it. So I don't see where we're accomplishing anything by criminalizing such people at this point. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help them. And it's simply creating a more dangerous situation on our streets.
With the heroin overdoses and deaths that you have been exposed to in your law enforcement career and in your life overall, is it fair to say that the people that die from heroin overdoses are dying because they don't know the strength of what they're buying, or because the heroin in and of itself is deadly?
It's both. It's a combination of both. You know, you don't know what you're getting off the street. I mean, we've seen some of our famous Heath Ledger, for example, or there was one in Vancouver that died recently. A famous guy. So, you know, it's a combination of both dosages and quality on the streets, And I mean, when they're making crystal meth and toilet bowls and whatnot, this is insane, and we have to, you know, take control of that by either replacing it with something decent and you know, offering these people help. It's the same with Molly and the MDA substances. You know, these are killing our children because they're handled by organized crime. I don't like kids using this stuff, but they're going to use it. And if they're going to use it, we got to try and make it safer. People do recover from their problems and addictions.
Have you run into a single one underground drug dealer, one illegal drug dealer, ever anywhere who has said, I have marijuana, I have methamphetamine, I have coke, what do you want? Oh, but let me see your proof of age first.
And absolutely not. No, it's, you know, drug dealers are drug dealers. They're out for the buck and that's it. They don't care about, you know, the quality or the poison they may be selling. And in some cases it is directly poison, and, you know, they don't care who they sell to, and this is why we have to take it off our streets.
It personally upsets me that we have what boils down to a random, arbitrary death penalty for using street heroin. You got a hot shot, you're dead. I'm sorry. You had a bad day.
That's right.
If I go to the pharmacy and my doc says, here's an extremely strong painkiller, this is what you need, we've tried it, nothing weaker works, and I go to the store and Merck Chemical or Pfizer or one of the real labs gives me a pill, and that pill says, this pill is 60 milligram time release. My level of confidence is pretty high that it's probably not below 55 and it's probably not above 65.
Right. Yeah.
So if the 60 won't kill me, the chance of what Pfizer and Merck make, the chance of me overdosing on that accidentally because their lab work was sloppy, pretty small.
That's right.
Pretty small. How many?
Yeah, and of course these doctors, when they prescribe, they just don't prescribe, 2 months, 3 months supply. And, really, we got to take, I think, a better control of that. The fact is, when they don't ask the patient, make sure they don't say, don't overdose, don't take more than you're prescribed, because it's already written on the directions. Now, people still do that. We don't criminalize them. We help.
I'm thinking on directions. I'm thinking on directions. What we're doing is killing our male population because women read directions.
Right. Yeah.
It's the men that don't ask directions. If I may share that racist, sexist observation. But there's truth to it, and the warning alone, that's not enough. How about selling a product that simply is what it purports to be? That seems like basic, honest salesmanship. We're telling you we're selling you red paint. When I get home and I open it up and I put it on the pallet, I have a pretty good expectation that red paint is going to be on the pallet, not green. We give more attention to selling acrylic paints for an artist than we do to how strong a deadly substance is that our children, that our friends, that our brothers, sisters are dying from. Do I sound frustrated?
Well, I think we're all a bit frustrated, yeah. Legalization of all these substances means control and regulation to me. I mean, people can get heroin if they want, like they do in Britain for prescription. The recreational users a bit of a problem, perhaps, but I think that's more of a personal responsibility. And the other thing that people forget, I think, is that if we legalize these substances, there's still going to be a need to go after the illegal dealers. The ones that are selling to or providing to children or younger people or outside any kind of regulation we have. And people got to remember that as well. We're not just going to legalize and it's going to be a free-for-all.
So not only do we gain in all the ways that we've spoken about already by legalizing, we have this secondary benefit, which is critical. It's just critical, getting it out of the street gangs. Let me ask you this. This is a softball, but it's so important. Take a corner in a poor area of town, which may well be populated more by people of color, and we have drive-by shootings in places. We know we have that. We know the drive-by shooting is driven by the value of controlling a particular intersection. Sound like a fair statement?
Right, absolutely.
What gives that intersection any value at all? And where I'm going with that is this. If drugs, dangerous drugs, were taxed, regulated, controlled by the government, does that street corner still have value? Well, maybe as a rental location for a distributor, for an outlet who's now going to pay rent, who now has legal money that can be taxed and put in the bank and then loaned and generally contribute to the growth of a society.
Absolutely,
by making it legal, rather than... Yes, please.
Well, I agree with everything you said, Judge, and I can cite an example of that. In the mid-'70s, I was assigned to sit on a rooftop and watch I guess what we could call now an illegal inject site in downtown Winnipeg. And I was assigned to watch this from the rooftop, and then, surveillance. And the girls, the street, the hookers, various people would be going into this storefront, which was a grocery store, knock on a door at the back, the little latch, or the little window door opens, they let them in, they inject their, in those days I think it was T's and R's, Tone and Ritalin, poor man's heroin. And then they would come out after, and one of the first things I noticed, you never saw any trouble around there, you never saw needles being littered around the neighborhood. The other thing is, it was in a downtown location. It wasn't in the neighborhoods. It was out of the neighborhoods, which was, I thought, even at the time, gee, this is important. Well, the hotel beverage room down the street closed in those days at midnight, and all the drunks started pouring out. No trouble watching the inject site, the so-called legal inject or illegal inject site, but the bar. There was fights breaking out and stabbings, and the police were down there, but everybody pretty much ignored the inject site except for me on the bloody rooftop. You know what I mean? It to me, that showed what regulation can do.
It was there to watch,
yeah,
but it had no positive impact.
No.
I'm silent in frustration. Reflecting back, you referred to meth being cooked in toilet bowls, and I had to think, what a perfect place to cook crap. It's where it belongs. But right now, it is a government price-supported industry. Is this what we want our government to encourage the sale of? Is this what we want our government maintaining a high price on? I would venture to say no.
Well, yeah. And, and then we go back to marijuana, of course. Marijuana has positive health effects, in my opinion, and a lot of people are finding, often quite less need to see their doctors in many instances because they're feeling better.
Have you run into, I know I've run into a significant number of people who say to me, I was, because of an injury, a back surgery, whatever it is, right, I was on a fairly high dosage of a dangerous painkiller, whether it was OxyContin, safer than Vicodin, by the way, in my opinion, one of these dangerous painkillers, and now that I'm smoking or vaporizing or eating edibles with marijuana, I have either reduced my usage to zero or a fraction of what it was before. Is that what you're hearing also?
Well, this vape room we were operating, and this is why I took a temporary absence from LEAP, speaking, because this is all kind of in a gray area up here, and I don't want to impact negatively on LEAP, but what you just said is exactly true. We had many people coming in trying to get secure prescriptions through our organization or seeking doctors because doctors in this country simply won't prescribe at this point in time. And they're all telling me the same thing. And I'm telling you, hundreds came in there over the past year, I should say. And they were all the same stories. OxyContin, this kind of pill, that kind of pill, this kind of pill. And they say they don't want to take it anymore. They got off it because they're smoking straight pot and it's helping them much more significantly. I don't see where there's a crime.
Well, there is a crime. The government's committing it.
Well, that's
the
true.
Government is torturing our citizens. The government is saying, no, you can't have that less dangerous drug. You can have the more dangerous drug. And, oh, by the way, we're going to make it so difficult for you to get the more dangerous drug that more and more we're reading people are turning to street heroin because it's easier to get.
Absolutely.
And it's cheaper.
Absolutely. I'm hearing that in the States all the time now. I don't think it's so cheap up here in Canada. I wouldn't know. I've been out of it for a long time. But the fact is,
Sadly, I can speak to this somewhat. I have been through back surgery. I am fused at 2 levels. And sadly, I have had experience with these different things. And I can tell you every week for honest-to-God pain patients, people that could not function without some type of painkiller.
Right.
The way they're doing it in the U.S. now is this. Even Vicodin, let alone some of the stronger ones, Vicodin, you must go to your MD once a month, pick up a hard copy of the prescription. No, they can't call it in. Take that hard copy to the drugstore, hope they're not out of it, and then the latest twist, not only all that, but every 3 months, your doc has to examine you, interrogate you, to see if it's still necessary.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, in all fairness, I did see a doc for that reason yesterday. It wasn't 2 days ago, it was yesterday. They asked the right questions. I will give them credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
They did ask the right questions. But if we can have somebody that cuts their opiate dose, their legal heroin dose in half and a quarter, switching over to marijuana, I'm a science fan. I've always been a science guy. I love science. I can still work a microscope and a slide rule. If somebody tells me something reduces their pain, if somebody tells me they're now on a fraction of the dose of opiate they were on, do I really care if that can be scientifically proven or not? Sure, academically. Realistically?
No. Well, I agree. I agree with everything you said there as well. To be honest with you, Casper, you indicated you were happy to see the medical marijuana system up here in Canada, but I'll tell you, the police, the doctors, the patients, and the general public are not happy with the medical marijuana system up here in Canada right now. As you know, one of our liberal leader candidates has pronounced that he will legalize marijuana. And we have an election coming up here this fall, in October, I think. So things are really popping up here in Canada. We have the Liberal leader saying he's going to legalize. We have the Conservative government right now saying guys can go pound salt, you'll never get it. And then we have what is called the New Democratic Party, who is still toying around with decriminalization, but they're starting to come around too.
I need to turn off that noise in the background. I have another phone answering itself. Let me see if I can shut it up.
Well, while you do that, we'll go ahead and take our second break and pay our bills. And we do encourage people out there to please go to our website and let everybody know that you heard about them here on Time for Hemp. You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
Serious Seeds is your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most awarded strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
Well, I once had a bowl, good green reefer, a big fat don't be much, much sweeter. Mighty don't hide it. Mighty don't hide it. Well, mighty don't hide it. Mighty don't hide it. Well, I don't hide it. Fire up right now.
Yeah, fire up right now. Be loud, be proud. Come out of the closet and let everybody know that you are a marijuana smoker, a cannabis user, whether you do it for social reasons or medical reasons. I don't care what the reasons. The fact is you do. So don't be afraid to come out publicly and let the whole world know that it's time for hemp. With that said, I'm going to hush my mouth and let our joint host and our joint guest get back to the last 8 minutes of our conversation.
Bill, as you know, down in the United States, when we call something, and this may be the same in Canada, I plead ignorance, when the FDA says that is Schedule 1, as you are aware, that means 1, high potential for abuse, and 2, no legitimate purpose. Let's skip marijuana. If we still have to talk about legitimate purposes, let's skip recreational for the moment, just straight medical legitimate purposes. I don't know that too many people really question that anymore. And the ones that do are so locked in, I frankly wouldn't spend lots of time trying to convert them. They're fanatics. They're true believers. On the other hand, I think the bulk of people these days realize that it does help some people with some conditions. Let's look at another Schedule 1, theoretically useless, dangerous substance. The psychedelics, LSD, psilocybin. Are you running into positive health-related, positive benefits to some of these other Schedule 1 drugs?
Yeah, as far as those kinds of substances goes, I mean, there's no question they're the number one, the FDA or ever categorize marijuana. They're blatant liars as far as I'm concerned. They suffer reefer madness. As far as these other drugs, LSD, psilocybin, I mean, the mushrooms, the other plant material, these have been around for so long now, centuries and centuries and centuries. And the native peoples have used these for various ceremonies and religious ceremonies. And, the sky has never fallen in. The sky only seems to fall in when the police get involved with these substances. And otherwise people seem to be enjoying themselves. I don't see a heck of a lot of trouble. I mean, we may have, I should say this, in the wintertime in about 1973, we took a call for a woman walking naked in the winter down the street. And sure enough, a young woman was about 22 years old and just totally out of it, psychologically, couldn't communicate, got her into the cruiser car, took her to the hospital, couldn't identify her, couldn't find out where she belonged. So whether we couldn't even identify what kind of drug she was on something, but she recovered. But, I mean, these things are dangerous. These things should be regulated and controlled under some fashion, and take them right off our streets, out of the hands, and away from our children, for God's sakes. At this point in time, people should be able to be allowed and access some of these things legally in a legal fashion, I think.
Let's talk about Richard Nixon briefly and the war on drugs. And he didn't start the war on drugs. He just gave it a very catchy name, and we know that's important. But let's look at that. He won a first term. Don't ask me how. It is just embarrassing. But he did. Then, to win the second term, even more embarrassing, his slogan was 4 more years. Now, we've been trying prohibition to keep these substances out of the hands of civilians since early 1900s, certainly since 1937.
Right.
Has it worked?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I mean, the Harper government here in Canada, never mind the 30s, the Harper government in Canada has come up with mandatory minimums for drug offenses in this country, which the U.S. is getting away from, to show how ridiculous our present government is. And in my view, what they've done inadvertently is increase the use of drugs. They keep it in the news. They keep fighting it. They, instead of coming up with a sensible policy that will actually, in my view, reduce the use of strong substances, of dangerous substances. But no, they keep wanting to push and push and push and tell people, don't use this and don't use that. Well, criminalizing them doesn't help.
The Richard Nixon, what comes to mind to me is this.
We're down to the last couple of minutes, so we need to wrap this up, so make it quick.
If I said to you, Bill, if I gave you 4 more years, Richard's amount, Richard Milhouse Nixon, if I gave you 4 more years, would Prohibition work then?
Prohibition has never worked. It won't work.
If I gave you 8 more years?
No, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. People are human beings. We need choices in life. The government says the only legal substance you can use is alcohol. I call bullshit on that. And I like my alcohol, by the way. But the fact is, we know how dangerous that is, comparatively speaking, to marijuana. And, it's, I'm going to say the last word. We repeal all these bloody laws and let's get on with our lives and stop playing silly bugger with the lives of our citizens.
Ammonia's dangerous. Don't drink it.
Yeah.
Do we ban it?
No.
Do we say it's illegal?
Not.
Is it dangerous? Sure.
Well, what do you think about this? We got to wrap it up now. I'm so sorry. It's time to give out the favorite URLs and organizations you want to put a spotlight on. Let's start with our joint host, I start with our joint guest.
Okay, first I'd like to put a shout out and encourage Winnipeggers, if you're listening, to come to Vapes off Main, downtown Winnipeg, the Exchange District. The cannabis dispensary at 1404 Main Street, run by our friend Glenn, is still in operation. The police have told him to shut down. He says, go pound salt. I'm not, so we expect a big fight here. So shout-outs to both those groups and to Leap.
And, Your Honor?
I am going to be selfish. Me, and some smart people now have an app on iTunes called My Canary. And what we're doing, rather than looking at chemistry, what's your blood alcohol, what's your THC level, we are looking at performance. How is your reaction time? How does your reaction time compare to what it is when you're clean and sober? Give people real information to help them make good decisions.
Hear, hear.
Well, and with that said, go ahead.
My Canary is the app. And for the information and the video and the science, mycanaryapp.com.
And with that said, I'd like to remind everybody out there that Time for Hemp is no longer just a 1-hour show, but we are a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week broadcasting network with a team of hosts dedicated to ending prohibition in your neck of the woods. And remember, the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's Time for Hemp.